Welcome to the Black Script Storytellers. My name is Kevin Marable, and today our guest is an actor, producer, and educator who continues to build his legacy both on screen and behind the scenes. He's appeared in acclaimed projects like Queen of the South, Atlanta, Loving, The Birth of a Nation, and most recently the Hulu series Murdaugh, Death in the Family. Beyond acting, he's the founder of Life of an Actor Academy, where he helps artists sharpen their craft and mindset. We have with us none other than Chris Greene. Chris, thank you so much for joining.
That was a dope intro, man.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
I
Everybody says the
appreciate
same
that.
thing.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was solid.
I like to give people their flowers, man, and kind of run down some of the things that you've been involved in and showcase what you're doing and what you have been doing for quite some time. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's
thank you.
it. Yeah, absolutely. Now, Chris, I like to start off every interview with a very simple question, but some people might find it a little difficult to answer. Are you ready?
Okay. Let's do it. That's what we're here for.
That question is, who is Chris Greene?
That's damn, swinging out the gate, huh? He's I'm finding in my seasoned years, that's what we're gonna call it. I'm finding as I get into my seasoned years,
Mhm.
I'm, you know, a man who's more focused on trying to understand the why. Why I do things, why I feel a certain way, really deep diving. Like people say, well, I want to understand why I feel this way. And
Right.
they just scratch the surface.
Mhm.
For me, I'm someone that wants to dig deeper. And I attribute that to not only the craft, but first and foremost, just being a father. The older my daughter gets, the more I try to understand like why me? Like why was I so blessed to have her as my daughter? Like, what do I need to do to be a better father? And why do I feel like I need to be a better father if that's the case? You
Mhm.
know, uh, what can I do to my craft to make it better, to be a better, educator, as you say, to be a better actor, to be a better producer, to be a better director? And why do I feel the urge to be those things? Why am I not complacent? So
Mhm.
Chris Greene is a guy who needs to understand the why. That's who he is right now. Years ago, Chris Greene was short-tempered, Scorpio, watch your mouth, New Yorker, I mean, with the BS
Yeah.
and let me be the GOAT, right?
Right.
So I think it's just, experiencing growth and understanding why the growth is happening now versus before or maybe even, later. So that's who he is. He's the guy that needs to understand why. And that's at the deeper level. On the surface, like you said, actor, educator, producer, director, first and
Mhm.
foremost, girl dad,
There you go.
adventurer. I love to do crazy stuff. Even when they say, dude, look at your skin color. We ain't supposed to be doing that. But listen, I done jumped out of a plane. I don't mind doing it again. You know what I
Okay.
mean? So,
Yeah.
that's who I am.
Oh, that's dope, man. Yeah. So you're a risk taker. Yeah. What other
I
what other
think you
kind
have
of
to be. I think you have to be.
yeah. What other kind of risks have you taken? Whether it's within your career or just on a personal level?
Well, on a personal level, obviously jumping out of a plane is the big ass risk. Um, you know, I like to drive fast cars, so I mean, getting in a car anytime is a risk, right? But
Mhm.
I think, and I only do this, obviously, I mean to preface, I do this by myself. I don't do this with passengers in the car. I don't do it with my daughter in the car. I'm very
Right.
safe. But for me, I think I miss my calling with Fast and Furious. You know what I mean? I mean, they keep making them, so I might still pop up in there. But
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
talking
There's
about
still
the
a chance.
OG original.
Right. Right.
Yeah, 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 yeah. But that's on a personal level. Getting into acting obviously is a risk, especially nowadays. I mean, obviously I've been doing it longer than that, but the way the industry is now, for anybody up and coming, it's definitely a risk to jump into it.
Mhm.
I think I think on a personal level that would be it. On a professional level, every time you audition, every time you get a call back, every time you book a gig, every time you step on set, I think it's a
Mhm.
risk because you never know how it's going to turn out. You may feel a certain way and then it may turn out awful. You may think that doing some great work and you may not. You may think you're doing horrible work and it may pay off. It just really depends on, you know, each project, obviously. And I think that's the risk. It's like a gamble, right? You go to a
Right.
casino with $100, you might walk out with 1 million, or you might walk out in debt. You
Mhm.
never know. It's a risk every time you pull that lever on the machine or you push that button on the machine. It's the same thing as an actor. So, those are definitely big risks, you know, for me every time I step out. I don't think there's any one gig, honestly, that I've taken where I feel like, oh, that was a gamble, and or been an audition that's come across my desk and I'm like, I don't know about this one. You
Yeah.
know, for the most part, I think my team knows what I will and won't do.
Mhm.
I'm never going to compromise myself.
Mhm.
But again, like I said, every time you step in front of the camera or step on stage, I think it's always a risk.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Let's talk a little bit about your acting career and how you got started.
Hmm.
Can you kind of go down memory lane a little bit and let us know what led you to get into the craft of acting?
Yeah, for sure. I tell a story all the time, it's true. That's why I keep telling it. I was attending Winston-Salem State University, HBCU, shout out Rams. They just had their homecoming. I didn't get to make it, but, you know, priorities. And about maybe 10 minutes away from there is North Carolina School of the Arts, very well known dramatic performing arts school at the time, in 2000, at that time, 2000, 2004, they were, top five, I think, in the country as far as performing arts schools.
Mhm.
You know, Notable alumni there, I believe it was like Jada Pinkett had gone there at one point, Jonathan Majors most recently. They have some notable alumni that have come out of there. And I was cool with a guy that was going to school there
Mhm.
to become a producer, writer, director, for stage and for film and TV. And we had got cool. And he had invited me to come and, be a background actor on a thesis film.
Mhm.
And the gentleman's name is Lavender Gill that directed that. I think he's still a professor over there. Maybe. I don't, I'm not 100% sure. I know he was teaching there. And the film's called Chicks 101. And, you know, it was about a guy. It was basically like the white version of Hitch, basically.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It was that type of film. So, they were doing a club scene. They needed background actors like, yo, Chris, come through. Background was like, I ain't trying to do all that acting. Ass whack. I don't even know what acting is. Like, the people on TV, like, those are celebrities, bro. Like, anybody could do that. And he was
Right.
like, yeah, okay. Well, there's going to be girls there because it's a club scene. That's all he had to say. It's like, say less, say less. I'm on the way. I'm on the way.
Right.
So, and that was my first experience with acting, really. I'd done
Mhm.
some other background stuff there and, went back home and worked on some stuff, but that was the first one that kind of opened my eyes to, oh, I could really do this as a profession because they took a gutted out place and built it up into a club. And I was like, yo,
Mhm.
this is crazy. Like, this is dope. Like, you guys get paid for this? Yo, when we
Mhm.
graduate, this is what we're gonna get paid for. I was like, yo, they'll put me on, sign me up. Like, what do I need to do? He's like, you
Yeah.
need to train, bro. He's like, you can't just, you think you a good looking dude, you can't just go out there and, make it happen. We were still in at that time, I'm saying, light skin, we were still in, what I mean? The brothers, dark skin brothers ain't come
We,
over
we,
yet. We were
we
still
still
good.
in. We still in now.
I mean, it's we trying, man. We trying,
Yeah.
we trying to do what we can, what I mean? But I was like, all right, cool, bet I'm gonna do that. And snuck into a couple of classes over there at School of Arts. I always joke I owe them some tuition because I was
Uh,
sneaking and coming the back, area. But yeah, that was my first experience with that. And then from there it just grew. I did the whole go out to LA. I thought I was gonna make it, got my
mhm.
ass handed to me, came
Mhm.
back and really started training. That's what changed it. I started training. My first coach that I remember really opening things and unlocking things and kind of schooling on a game was a coach out of North Carolina called Jordan Beswick,
Mhm.
and I've had other coaches, no shade to them, but like he was the first one I was kind of like, yo, if you're gonna be serious about this, you got to develop a foundation.
Right.
And he
Right.
coached all over the world. And so he was the first one that kind of opened the doors up for me to get some stuff and then led me to understanding real coaches and teachers versus people that kind of like take this 6 week little thing and blah blah blah. And then
Mhm.
from there, man, I got my eligibility my SAG eligibility years later off of a Chevy commercial. I did a Chevy commercial with Howie Long,
Oh
and I
man.
was principal on that. And it wasn't like a big role. I just I booked it, did a couple of days, got my eligibility,
Hmm.
and from there started seeking out, trying to get an agent and all that jazz. But Chicks 101 was like the first real experience to understand, oh wow, this is an actual set. They build this up. They need background. They have film slates and directors, and really being exposed to the behind the curtain. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And then from there, it just here we are. I think that was in 2003,
Yeah.
2002 or 2003. So here we are, 20 some years later,
I was gonna say
still chasing it.
22, 23 years later, man. Long
Yeah,
longevity
yeah.
in the game. And you do this full time, correct?
The best I can with the way the industry is. But yeah, correct. I,
Right,
I
right,
haven't,
right.
during the pandemic, obviously. Yeah. During the pandemic, obviously, I got a side hustle like everybody else. The world shut down. So
Mm.
whatever was open, I could get into, and I've always been, like I said, in the cars. So I worked for a Chevrolet dealership. And the cool
Oh,
part
wow.
about that was I got to drive all the new cars, the trucks. When the Corvette dropped, the new Corvette body style's been out. I was one of the first ones to get to drive it. So, that was cool. And I didn't have to deal with anybody and get to, transport the cars.
Mhm,
And, it kept me, still working on my craft when I had the time, and then when I opened back up, auditioning. So yeah, full time between this and acting coaching, I'm fortunate enough. Don't get it twisted. Your boy ain't, Denzel wealthy, Will Smith wealthy, but I consider myself fortunate and blessed because even if you in today's climate, even if you book one gig as an actor, social media influencers, that's different. They get their bread and their thing. But even if you book, you know, one thing as an actor, it that's a big deal because there's
mhm,
so fewer jobs now and more actors, right?
mhm,
So
mhm.
that's the issue. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Yeah. No, there's a lot that goes into it for sure, and you have to remain consistent and show up even when the answer is no, time and time again. You have to
hmm
constantly go out and audition, send off self tapes, and continue to perfect your craft. It's not something that's fly by night. It takes a lot of time and energy
right.
and patience. Um, on top of everything to be able to sustain within this field. And so
hmm
it's admirable what you all are able to accomplish, and uh persistent in spite of constantly hearing the no's, and getting the, you know, maybe you're not right for this role kind of response, but
hmm
you still push forward, you still show up day in and day out until you finally get that yes and you land your next role in your next project. So that's no easy task, man. And it's
Yeah.
it's 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 always interesting to hear people's paths and how they navigate through the industry, and what works for them might not necessarily work for others. And so it's always great to hear, kind of peel the curtain back a little bit and hear what it's like, in your shoes opposed to somebody else's shoes, and then be able to compare the two and see, how they kind of stack up next to each other. But nobody's
hmm
path is the same, and ultimately, it takes a lot to sustain and maintain in this business. So you guys are doing amazing,
Agree.
man.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
Yeah. Thank you.
yeah, absolutely. Now you've gotten you've had a lot of credits to your name, namely
hmm
Atlanta, um, you know, um, Loving, The Birth of a Nation, Queen of the South. Can you talk a little bit about the first big major role that you received, and what it was like for that experience for you?
My first big speaking role on television was actually Single Ladies. That was a VH1 show. Lisa Ray.
Oh wow.
Uh, she was originally cast, but she wasn't on it. Stacey Dash was on it, but then they recast
Okay.
her. Lisa Ray, was the lead on that, and I think Queen Latifah was producer on the show. Shot
Mhm.
in Atlanta, and I remember getting that audition, and a lot of casting directors will say, we don't want props and we don't want this. And at that point, I was like, you know what, man, the hell with this, dude. I'm gonna do what I do. Like I need to be comfortable. It's like if they're not gonna pass my tape along, then oh well. And it was for a DJ Lanny T, right? And so I got my Beats headphones, I put them on, and my older brother on my dad's side, so my brother Rob, he used to DJ, and I've seen
Okay.
pictures like him, but this is back in like the old school, these are the breaks, that kind of like, so he, my brother's older, he's like senior citizen, and I hope he sees this because I always clown on him because he is old. But so but I was like, all right, cool. Like DJs, I'm a fan of like old school. I was thinking old school, like Jazzy Jeff, forget, you know what I'm saying? Like doing that whole, Fat Man School, whatever, RIP, shout out to him. And so
Right.
I put the headphones on and I'm kind of doing my thing. And in the scene, one of the regulars comes up to me and she's talking to me and she's like, yo, what's up? Member from school? All right, cool, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And so I just do my interaction. And I remember booking that role, driving to Georgia. And I remember the director coming to me. I can't remember the director's name because I think that was like early on in her career as well. It was a female director. And I'm
Mhm.
trying to think, I can't remember her name. But I remember getting fitted and she came in and she was just like, DJ Lanny T, what's up? And I was like, hey, what's happening? What's good? She was like, your audition was dope. She was like, everybody sent in tapes or whatever, but the fact that you kind of made us feel like you had the whole setup, it was doing your headphones. She was like,
Right.
as soon as I saw it, I was like, that's the guy, you know?
Yeah.
So it gave confirmation to like just trusting yourself and do what you do. But that set was great. I met some solid actors on that set that I still talk to this day. Shout out Terry Abney, amazing actress,
Wow.
and just a good woman all in general. We still talk here and there. My boy Gino Vento, who's an amazing actor as well, and everybody, you've seen both of them do amazing work, great projects under their name.
Mhm.
And we all that was kind of like our first back then, like our first kind of big gig. We all met on set and just kind of hung out and kept tabs and supported each other because, they had other people on that set that have been on for a while. And it was kind of like, all right, we're the new kids on the block. So, we kind of
Right.
got to stick together. But that experience was cool. We shot in a club in Atlanta, a real club in Atlanta. It was a nice vibe. It was cool because I got to get the crowd to move. Like, they would like hype the crowd up, be a DJ. I was like, I bet. We had about like 30
Yeah.
extras in there, probably something like that, 30 background. So that was the first speaking role on TV. On film, the first big role. Like, oh man, I have to go back and look and think about that.
I was
I'd
gonna
say the
say
most
it's
impactful
so many.
role. Yeah. I'd say the most impactful role on film for sure had to be Birth of a Nation, just because the education I got on that set, getting the
Right.
opportunity to meet, Coleman Domingo and work with him, Kelvin Harrison, shout out to Kel, who I still talk to,
Mhm.
and work with him. But the takeaway, Nate and Parker and Chike and Roger Goodrich Smith and all these people were great. Jason Warner Smith, shout out to him, but the person that I still talk to this day who like brings so much joy and light to my life, and I'm forever grateful being on that set. Ajanou Ellis Taylor, like
Wow.
she's a godsend, man. Like every time I reach out to her, she makes me feel great,
Right.
just by saying hello and her energy. And but she's so honest. Like if
Mhm.
I, get to a point where I'm doing too much, she'd be like, Chris, you need to stop. I'll be like,
She'll
yes,
tell you.
ma'am. You know what I mean? Like she gonna tell you straight up. And you got to put some respect on it, man. She's amazing. I've been following her career for a long time, so even though I obviously knew who she was before I met her on set, but she's just phenomenal. I can't give her flowers enough, man. And the fact that she's in my life and I have direct access to her, I can, hey, how you doing? What's going on? How are you? Good. How are you? How's your baby girl?
Right.
Like you could tell it's genuine. It ain't no actor BS. Like she's always asking me about my daughter. She asked me about, my family and how I'm
Mhm.
doing and making sure I'm good and not putting all my eggs into this industry because at the end of the day, this industry is there. You'll work, you won't work. But, people,
Yes.
those are the ones you got to hold on to. So that was probably the most impactful credit that I have, was that, filming in Savannah, filming on an actual plantation, feeling the spirit of the ancestors, the story that was being told, understanding more about Nat Turner, because I went to an HBCU and didn't learn anything about Nat Turner. You know
Mm,
what I mean? Which is
yeah,
crazy to me.
yeah.
So, you know, it 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 was definitely an eye opener. And I'm a guy from New York, so they don't. New York's kind of like, hey, here's brief history. Then I
Mm,
go into the South and went to school, and it was kind of like, oh, well, they hush hush, we can't tell you all about your history. And
mhm,
now, being on the set, it's like, yeah, we gonna uncover a lot, you know. So that's definitely the most impactful one I've had. And no, just it's like I've learned something from every role that I've played. But
mhm.
those, with Single Ladies being the first one that kind of showed me this is how you got to move on set, like because there's a lot of moving pieces and TV don't play. It's
Right.
quick, 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 be on it. And then with film, having access to all these mega collaborators and to me actors, because they're not celebrities, they're actors. They're like, yo, we get into the craft when we was on that set,
Mhm.
and to learn from them and be around that energy and flex my muscle was great, and it definitely gave me the confidence moving forward for sure.
Yeah, and you've definitely been able to flex it and showcase your craft on many amazing sets. Be a part of
Hmm.
a lot of amazing shows. Not everybody can say that within this industry, so it also says a
Hmm.
lot as far as the fact that you know. It's a proven testament to your craft and your skill that you're able to show up in a lot of these rooms and be able to showcase your craft, right? Um, Now, speaking of all of that, the most recent room that you're in the new
Hmm.
Hulu series called Murdaugh, Death in the Family,
Hmm.
um, and you played Doug Brailsford.
Hmm.
Can you talk a little bit about your role on the series and what the series is about?
Yeah, I mean, I guest star in the first episode, and then I have a voiceover, I think, in the fourth one that already came out. I don't know. I don't like to watch my own work. I'm one of those actors. I'm like, let's just out there, let everybody else decide on it. I don't need to watch it. From what I hear, it's a good series. I wasn't familiar with this story until I got the audition. I got
Mm,
the audition. I was like, oh, this is based on a real thing. All right, let me go look it
yeah.
up, see, crazy white guy doing some crazy white guy stuff. And I got hooked like everybody else watching that docu. I was like, these people, this dude he's crazy. You know what I mean? Like, I think people were just blown away at how, like, not, he's not crazy though. We call it crazy. Like, he's psychotic in a way. Like the stuff he was doing, like to hurt yourself and say
Right.
somebody else shot you. Like, what? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
They will
that's
go to great
wild.
lengths. Yeah, they'll go to great lengths to try to cover it up or make it seem like there was somebody else involved, not you.
Right. 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 And so it was one of those situations where I was like, okay, this is wild. Let me watch it some more and get a
Mhm.
feel of it. And Doug's character, he wasn't just he's like a culmination of a couple of like those agents, but the DNR agents, the resource agents were the ones that kind of started the ball rolling on getting this guy caught. Because they
Mhm.
got police in pocket, and when a affluent family in a small city like that in South Carolina, it was like, yeah, everybody knows everybody, and oh, the Murdaugh family, you don't mess with them, like they got bread, it's generational wealth.
Yeah.
So it was one of those things to where I did the research on that, try to find out more about Doug in the sense of like these characters that make him up and why they were so impactful. Because
Mhm.
South Carolina has a lot of natural resources, and so they have their own separate police to protect that.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, excuse me. So it's one of those things to where it's like these resources are what they're known for in that area.
Mhm.
And people try to capitalize on that. It's like even in Florida, there's conservation laws that keep Disney from buying up all the land. Like there's land near Disney, but they can't buy it because that's for wildlife and all that other stuff. So South Carolina has sort of similar thing, and they have people police that. And so
Mhm.
Doug is about his job, man. He's a black man living in the South, a bunch
Yeah.
of around a bunch of white people, and he's a man in position of power now. And so people are going to challenge his authority. He's a father, he's a husband. He wants to come in and basically just do his thing, do his job, go home to his kid.
Right.
And so when he hears what Alec Murdaugh is doing, he's like, "Oh, that's illegal. Can't have that happen." So he
Hmm.
goes in and he's shutting everything down. And here comes this guy's larger than life, and he's like testing his gangsters, like, "What you gonna do if I don't listen?"
Oh, yeah,
And
man.
like, don't listen, don't let it fool you, bro. Don't let this badge fool you, cause like we can get it popping. So
Right.
Doug was like, no nonsense.
Hmm. Hmm.
And you find out later in the episode that at that moment it was like it was Doug's naivete that allowed him to move that way with Alec. But then after doing his research, he finds out, I was like, oh, this dude could get me missing. Like
Right.
I need to kind of tread carefully with him. And
Hmm.
so he accepts an invite to go to a party, and then they have a conversation. And it really challenges Doug's morals, but
Hmm.
at the same time, he realizes how much of an asset Alec Murdaugh is because of the funding he has. So
Right.
it's interesting to see. Like I wanted to go in and try to make sure. Like I didn't want him to be like a simp or, this guy's like, oh yes, I'm asked, I'll do it. It wasn't that type of vibe. But shout out to the directors and the showrunners because they didn't want that either.
Yeah, I was gonna
It
say
was
you didn't portray him in that way at all. You definitely gave the no nonsense. I don't take any shit. That type of attitude, and
right,
stick
right,
to your guns, and wanted to
right,
abide by the law and the rules. But to your point, Alec Murdaugh definitely wanted to sidestep a lot of that and continue on with the business and the process. And yeah, the exchange between you two, I can see everything that you're explaining is exactly how it goes down. And
right.
it was a great performance, man.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. And Jason, shout out to Jason Clark, man. Jason Clark, I'm a fan of actors. When people say that, it's like, oh, no, like anybody that knows me, like
He's good.
like anything New York, I love. Obviously, being from there, I love Duke basketball. Even though I'm from New York, I love Duke basketball. My family's originally from the Carolinas. My mother's side. You
Hmm.
know, I love fast cars, anything to do with fast cars, and I
Yeah.
love actors. Like and understand it's separate from the industry. Like I'm a fan of actors. If I think you do dope work, I'll go back and look at your first film and follow your like I just love storytellers. I've always been fascinated by storytellers, whether it's through music, through film, stage, whatever, but more partially obviously actors.
Yeah.
And I've been rocking, I love the Terminator franchise. There's some goofy movies in there, but I still love the franchise.
It's
And
still
Jason
dope.
Clark was in, yeah, yeah. Jason Clark was in Genesis. He was in Terminator Genesis, and you know, his portrayal was dope in that. So when I meet him and now I see him as Alec Murdaugh, I'm like, oh, yo, this dude's about to bring it. And working
Yeah.
with him, man, he's such an actor's actor. Like he loves to give. He's just like, let's play around with this one, man, and see what happens. I'm like, oh man, bet, let's do it. And so a
Mhm.
lot of that was us just interacting and playing around. So shout out to Jason, he's cool. And then of course anything Patricia Arquette is in, she kills it. It
Yeah.
dominates every time. So I didn't get to work with her, but she was on set. She was cordial. So I think it's no one that's getting the love is getting. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, hopefully, another show will come around. You guys will actually be able to work together, and it won't just necessarily be in passing or singer on set or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, that's dope. That's
That'd be
that's really
great.
what's that?
I say, yeah, that'd be great, man. I mean, you speaking on it, I'm accepted. That'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Um, all right. So on top of that, many know you from your powerful supporting turns in Queen of the South and Atlanta as well. What's something that you've
Mhm.
learned from being a part of such high caliber sets?
Atlanta, I learned that, and I probably saying this, if I ever see him again, he'll probably beat my ass. But Atlanta, I learned that I wanted to fight Donald Glover, which he probably knows how to fight too. Because Donald knows how to do every damn thing. When I say that, like I get on set,
No.
obviously everybody knows Childish Gambino, he can rap. So I was like, all right, cool. This dude was drawing on set. I was like, wow, that's really
Yeah.
good. Okay. Obviously he can act, he can direct. Then he started singing. I was like, look here, bro. It's like, check this out. You need to save some talent for the rest of us. You know what I'm saying? You playing games right now. I don't appreciate it. You really need to step back. Brother's just a renaissance man. He's so
Mm.
good at like everything creative. And so it was cool to see that because that let me know I had to step my game up and work. And as a director, he was dope. I mean, he let us play, he let us improv. I mean, a lot of that stuff that I did was instinctual, thinking like, all right, Donald's not gonna like this. He was like, yo, what'd you just do? I was like this. He was like, yo, do that again. And it wound up making a cut. Like in the beginning of that episode when they introduced my character, he's like, Alano Miller, shout out to Alano, worked with him on Loving. Even though we were in the same episode, we didn't work together on Atlanta, but we worked together on Loving.
Hmm.
And Alano introduced his character, he's like, and Nathan Wielder has a report. And you see me and I'm doing this thing and I'm standing there like that. And then I look down and blah, 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 blah. I improv that on the spot. And
Wow.
Donald's like, yo, no, stay like that. Do that again. Right, run that again. Do that again.
Yeah.
And I just got that from watching certain news report, like when reporters aren't ready,
Hmm.
they be like looking off somewhere or doing something or whatever. And I was
Yeah.
just like, yeah, I've seen that before. Let me do that. So doing that, you know, the nod at the end with Niles and myself, and that was cool because Niles is a natural. He didn't start off as an actor. He was
Hmm.
doing an influencer thing, and he just became a natural. And that's a rare thing with some people, but Niles just got it. So we were sitting there. So the nod at the end, we were just nodding at each other.
Yeah.
Donald's like, I just want y'all to keep nodding, just keep going. So it's like, all right. And then you could feel like just us, it's like a staring contest. After a while, you stare at somebody, you could feel it start to break a little bit, and so that line, absolutely, when I say that, that's
Mhm.
improv. I had to do something. I was like, I got because I'm gonna start laughing. So I was like, absolutely. And then they cut from there. And I've had people come up to me, it's like, oh, you the reporter guy. I'm like, yeah, they don't, remember my character's name, but they remember, oh, the reporter from Atlanta. Like,
Oh,
yeah, and they're
yeah.
like, absolutely. And they'll say that. I'll be like, all right, cool, that's cool. But yeah,
It's
that's what I
iconic
learned from that set was
series.
just
Yeah.
no, go ahead, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say it was an iconic series. Every episode was amazing. It's something that's gonna
Hmm.
stand the test of time for sure. And the fact that you're in it
Yeah,
is also going to help cement your legacy as well. That because
thank
you
you. Yeah,
in part for sure. And I love Atlanta, man. Atlanta was a great series for real. So I can imagine what it was
it
like.
was, man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was, man. That show was one of those caught you off guard, especially our episode. And I'm
Yes.
not bragging on it because I'm in it. Our episode was the only one that instituted those fake commercials. So
Right.
people were like on Twitter heavy going like, yo, this is so hilarious. And people were like live tweeting like, what do you mean it's on commercial? They're like, no, it's not. That's part of the show. People were pissed. They were like, what? I missed it. And they were going back. And that
Yeah.
messed up a whole, because he had it written in the script. So you're reading the script and you're like, commercial break. I've never seen that before until like, why are they writing in commercial breaks on the script? Like, dude, what do you mean? And
But
then when I
implementing
kept reading it again, and
the
right, we're on set, and I'm reading it, and I'm like, oh, you're actually gonna shoot these commercials? Oh, I'm like, yo, this dude he's crazy. He's like absolutely crazy. So, you know, people just the Dodge commercial to me was the funniest. That
oh,
whole skit of doing that Dodge commercial, I was like, because that's exactly right. That's exactly right.
yeah, yeah.
100%.
We need
So,
more shows like that for sure. And
hmm,
to your point, Donald Glover is definitely a genius. Um,
yeah.
and there's not many that come around with that level of talent.
Mm-mm.
And be able to
Mm-mm.
showcase it all in different aspects, of his career. But um,
Yeah.
now, on top of all of that, you have your own production company, Detour Entertainment.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yep.
and we kind of spoke about this a little bit while I was in Florida. Um, but if
Hmm.
you could, just for the audience, can you kind of explain what you're looking to do with Detour Entertainment, what you're looking to get into on the production side?
For sure, for sure. And real quick before I get in that, I just want to touch base on this real quick, backtrack. I know um with Queen of the South, what I learned from that is watching Alice Braga. She is Brazilian.
Hmm.
And if you know anything about that, they speak Portuguese. Well, Queen
Yeah.
of the South is based on a Mexican cartel. So not only did she have to transpose her Spanish to Mexican Spanish, she also had to get her English down enough. So I
Mm.
kind of peeped over her shoulder when they was looking at her script and all the notes that were on there. I was just like, yo, this is bugged. And to
Wow.
me, that allowed me to, yeah, that allowed me to go, okay,
Yeah.
um, I'm not diving deep enough into my
Mm.
work. And so, like I said, I always soak and pick up from different actors and stuff. So that was the one thing I got on that script. And then I love the fact that with Queen of the South, because it's a Latin-based show, a lot, or most of the crew was Latin, most of the keys were Latin. You know, they had a
Right.
lot of people of color on that set because we were in New Orleans. But Latin, you know, they were like, yo, we're telling our story. We need to have that. And to me, that's what I try to gear towards. Yo, at the end of the day, hire whoever's right for the role. I mean, hire whoever's right for the job. I don't care if they're polka dot, purple, alien. If they're
Right.
qualified, cool. But it helps when you have people that understand the story you're telling and have them join. So that's what I liked about that. But and that's leads into the detour thing. That's what I'm trying to do. You know, you know, on the production and directing end, you know, we've done a couple of shorts, we've done some casting.
Mm.
Right now, what I want to do with detour is I kind of not to compare to anybody else, but I love the lane like A24 is in. A24 just tells those raw stories, and that's kind of
Yes.
what I want to do. I want to get into telling those raw stories, doing that thing, doing that work, you know, telling stories that I grew up hearing and being immersed in New York, but also transitioning into the South and seeing those stories, going from
Mhm.
a white high school to a HBCU, you know,
Yeah.
going from north to south, you know, just all those different things, man. And I want to tell those type of stories and have them resonate. You know, I'm down to help produce anything. You know, the whole purpose
Mm.
of calling it Detour Entertainment is because it's exactly that. Like, I don't want to be on the main street that everybody else is on traffic wise. Let me dip off, go this
Yeah.
way, and I can
Yeah.
still get to the same destination. Will it take me longer? Sure. Sometimes the detour takes longer, but it's less obstacles. And you
Mhm.
have more time to think along the way. If you think about it, it's less traffic, it's less obstacles. Usually the road's a little bit smoother. You know, yeah,
Mhm.
you add a couple minutes onto your journey, but you still wind up getting to the same location. And so that
Right.
was it, the genesis of Detour Entertainment. So it was like, oh, you know, I want that entertainment to be just that. I want it to be away from the norm and have my own thing. Like that way you get shows like Atlanta, you know, you get shows like The Wire, you get shows like Lost, you get shows like, you know, Queen of South, you know, you get shows, you know, some of these amazing shows that are out, you know, you get some of these shows like Paradise, you know,
Yeah.
you love that show. You know what I mean?
Mm. Man.
Yeah. So that's what I'm trying to do with Detour as far as films, short films, television. You know, obviously everybody's getting into these verticals now, the vertical content, you know, getting into that, you
Mm.
know. So yeah, you know, it's just I just want to work with good people who enjoy the art of storytelling. And if I can facilitate it in any way, you know, I'm down. So, you know, anybody in the year followers that's watching this, anybody that's in the production or doing any type of, you know, media work, you know, holla at me. Like let's talk. Let's make it happen. There's no reason why creation cannot happen. Yes, you have different tiers and different levels,
Yes.
but in this day and age, you know, back in the day, it was press them on tape, press it on DVD, sling it out the trunk. It's the
Right.
same concept, except for the trunk is now Instagram, Twitter,
Yeah.
or
That's
X,
it.
whatever the hell, Facebook, YouTube. Oh, yeah, the trunk is
That's
now
it.
just digital,
Yeah. Same story, different day, just same
right?
method, different platform. Same.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the
Right,
different phases of the technology moving forward and learning how to
right.
navigate new space as each iteration becomes the norm, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And to your point with verticals, that is the trajectory of where we're going. Verticals and AI, unfortunately, but
Mm-hmm.
both of those spaces are what's next, whether people like it or not. And it's going to open up doors
Mm-hmm.
a lot more in the indie space, a lot more creatively. Um, will it, on the AI side, will it take away some people's jobs? Maybe, but I think if you can learn how to utilize it as a tool more so than to take away, just use it as a resource and a tool, then it can definitely be used in the right way and make things greater from that standpoint. But yeah, to your point, as far as Detour Entertainment and the love of A24 and other companies like Neon, and even like
Mm-hmm.
Blumhouse and
Mm-hmm.
some some of those other studios.
Monkey
Yeah,
Paw, all those. Yeah,
Monkey Paw,
man. Jordan
right?
Peele's joint,
Yeah, there's
man.
definitely space there. Obviously, A24 is dominating right now, but they they
Yeah,
they took a
yeah.
different path, and the even though they started more so, or they were looked at more so as like the indie studio or the indie,
Hmm.
production house, they don't they don't present themselves as the indie studio or the indie production
Hmm.
house. They showcase themselves as a major, but with smaller budgets, but are able to showcase things on a
Right.
main level and be award winning. So
Yeah.
there's possibility there, man, and there's really no studio or network in the black space that's quite doing it like A24. So maybe Detour might be next.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the hope, brother, and the collaboration, and I think that's, and we hear this time and time again, unfortunately, but I wish that that was something that we as a community didn't do so much, which was compete against each other in a
Yeah.
negative way. Like
Mhm.
competition is good. Look, don't get it twisted. Yeah, I'm trying to get this bread. I'm trying to, do what I got to do. But
Mhm.
putting each other down, like, or making the narrative, if it ain't this, it ain't black enough. Like you don't see our counterparts doing that. You
Right.
know what I mean? Like,
Right.
I don't think I've ever heard a filmmaker say, "Oh, you did this movie about the Italian mafia. It wasn't Godfather, so it wasn't Italian." Like, I don't think I've ever heard a white person, Italian, say that. I've never heard a white person say this ain't white enough. I've
Right.
never
Exactly.
heard that. Not saying it doesn't happen. I've just never heard it. But
I
I
need.
hear all the time, yeah, this ain't black enough, or you trying to be black, or it's trying to be. It's like, all right, man, all right, like you get tired of hearing that, man. So I don't want to be that guy. I like to be the guy that's like, look, are you capable of doing the job? Cool, let's get it cracking. What's your experience? This is my experience. Let's tell it the best way we know how, and get the
Mhm.
best people to tell that story. And then it'll be for whoever. Not
Yeah.
every film is for everybody. That's the one thing. That's why I try to diversify my resume because I'm proud to say that my resume has something on there for everybody. I've got
Yes.
stuff on there for, not like babies, obviously, but I've got stuff on there for
No.
preteens, teenagers. I've got stuff on there for that with the Apple series I did call Me. That's
Mhm.
for teenagers. I've got something for that 21 to 40 demo. I've got
Yep.
something for that 50 plus demo. I've got
Mhm.
something for black, white, Latin, Asian. I've got something for everybody on my
Mhm.
resume. And I intentionally try to do that. And
Yeah.
so there's no excuse as to why, at least with me, you could say, well, I haven't seen any of your work because it's just all black or it's just all white. Or it's like, nah, nope. Mm-mm. And even with that, I've got some of the blackest shit on my resume. Like, I mean, blackety black. And I still
Right.
have had black casting directors and black directors tell me you need something black on your resume. And I'm like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I mean, you just got to keep pushing and showcasing, all, the how dynamic you are, and how you
Hmm.
can be flexible across genres and styles and demographics, and um the more you get into these spaces, the more people are able to see what you're capable of, and what you're able to pull off, both in acting and
Hmm.
as well as on the production side. um I
Hmm.
do want to ask, in terms of production, do you have like a specific genre that you would love to get into, or are you open to all genres? Are you somebody that's maybe looking
I
to showcase a particular style or look or feel or genre?
I love post-apocalyptic.
Mm,
And outside of I Am Legend, I don't think we've had a black lead in something like that. Now people could say, "Oh well, no, 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 no." Listen to what I said. Black lead
no,
outside of
you're
I
right.
Am Legend, and that's why and everybody look. It's no secret. Everybody knows I'm a fan of Will Smith's career. I'm a fan of his
Yeah,
personal life. That's his personal life. I don't, but for people to deny like
what he was able to
you know
accomplish.
music wise,
Hmm.
even with that, I don't care what you say. Everybody knows the words to the Men in Black theme song. Everybody knows the words to Get Jiggy with It.
Yeah.
Everybody knows the words to, and I don't even have to say anything else, period. You can talk all the shit you want about Will Smith as a rapper, but
Hmm.
come the first day of summer, anywhere in this country, there's one song that's going to be playing on every radio station, and that's
Yeah.
Summertime. I don't
Yeah.
give a damn where you at. So
Hmm.
you can say what you want, but the man locked it down.
Yeah.
You can say what you want about his acting career. He held down the first decade of the 2000s by himself every
Summer
summer.
blockbusters. He kind of ushered in the summer blockbuster, honestly.
Yep.
Hmm.
Hmm. Consistency, you know.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I Am Legend, you gotta remember. Yeah, they had a couple of flashbacks in there, but for almost a 2 hour movie, a good 45 minutes of that was just him and a dog
Yeah.
and some
By
zombies. You know what I
right.
mean? But you can say what you want. The man held down the screen by himself for
Hmm.
60% of that movie.
Yeah.
So that I thought that was amazing because again, that type of genre we haven't seen that. Like, and that's based. I Am Legend is based off of Mega Man. I think it was a '70s movie, and a
Hmm.
white lead, in that. So it's
Hmm.
like when it comes to post-apocalyptic, it's always a white lead guy and then the black guy is like the supporting in the background who knows how to work on the car or something. Like he's
Right.
not the leader of the group. She's not the leader of the group, a black woman. So I definitely want to dive into that and more into the space of like even with, you know, Night of the Living Dead, George Romero is the black and white. The one brother that's in there made it to the end of the movie. Of course, he gets phased out. But
Mhm.
like, it's very rare that we have somebody in a post-apocalyptic type world where that's going on. I would like to see that. And
Mhm.
for me in the sci-fi world, we haven't had one yet and I would like
Mhm.
to see it. And I'm
Yeah.
putting myself in the realm because
Very.
nobody's going to do it better than Robert Patrick because Robert Patrick is the GOAT. Arnold, obviously, he's the Terminator, he's the GOAT. But Robert Patrick, villain-wise, the GOAT, and he was a small guy and he did his damn thing and held his own as a T-1000. But we haven't had a black Terminator ever. I'm putting myself out there for that. I don't care what nobody say. I'll get in the shape for it. I would love to be
Yo.
like the first black Terminator. Diego Luna, I think that's his name. Diego, no, it might have been some. No, what's the gentleman's name? I forget his name. Daniel, maybe. He's in The Last of Us. He played um Pedro
Oh.
Pascal's brother in The Last of Us.
Oh.
It's
Yeah.
gonna.
I don't know
I
his.
know his name, but
I
it's
know
gonna
who you. I know who you're talking about,
Gabriel
but
Luna, I think.
yeah. Yeah. I know
Yeah, I
you're
think it's
talking.
Gabriel Luna. It's something like that. But
Mhm.
he played a Terminator in Dark Fate. He played a Terminator. But it was set in Mexico, so it made sense. To me, you don't have to be in Atlanta to do that. You can be wherever. I want to play the Black Terminator. I want to play that T-1000 version where I can run motherfuckers down and just be chasing after them and be that Terminator. Arnold, I know you're a little too old to be the Terminator, so we can have somebody else do it. But you know what I mean? So yeah, like those two
He's got
genres,
to
man,
make.
the
He's got to make
post-apocalyptic.
an appearance. He's got to make an appearance.
Oh, of course. And we got CG. That's the only time that I will accept AI. All right, cool. We're doing a Terminator movie. You can get the AI popping with that, But the post-apocalyptic and the sci-fi realm. I think that's two areas that we as Black people don't really delve too much in. That's why I do respect Michael B. Jordan for doing the anime thing and then kind of segueing into the sci-fi because it's like we tell those stories too.
Well, I was going to say, being that you mentioned Michael B. Jordan, I don't know if you've heard, but there are rumors circling or swirling about an I Am Legend 2 with Will Smith and Michael B. Jordan.
Yeah, I was like, all right, Mike, come on now. You ain't need that. Like, let this brother get on. Let me get on. You ain't need that. You know what I'm saying? But I
Yeah,
think they actually, I think that's going. I think that's a go. I think it's a green light. I think they actually, if not, if they haven't started already filming, they're about to. So, from
yeah,
my understanding, so we'll see, man. I just hope it. I hope it's good. And it's crazy because people go, well, in the first I Am Legend, he dies. Like, how are they gonna have I Am Legend 2? He dies. But if you bought the DVD or the Blu-ray and watched
you say,
the alternate ending,
yeah. There's
yep,
ways around that for
alternate
sure.
ending,
Yeah,
yep, yeah, he didn't die in the alternate ending. So, maybe they're gonna go with that ending. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Mhm. Man,
Yeah.
it's crazy. It's crazy just to see where things can go. And I'm a fan of certain reboots and
Hmm.
remakes or prequels and sequels and so on and so forth. I just hope that they do it justice. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now let's talk a little bit about the education side of things. You are also
Bet.
the owner of Life of an Actor. Can you talk a little bit about your platform and what you do for emerging talent?
So Life of an Actor is, my organization, my acting studio, and we about the craft, man. Yes, we understand the business side, we learn it. I just want to pay it forward and teach actors.
Hmm.
I've studied all the different systems and techniques, and I still continue to do so. I'm a student of the craft, literally. And I don't want that last breed of like actors, like, that we respect, like, yo, that's an actor. I don't want that breed to go out, man. I want to keep us going. We're endangered species. Right now it's all about it's Hollywood's always been about who's the best looking, but now it's how many followers you got and how good you look with a filter.
Yeah.
Those are not actors. Those are celebrities at
Hmm.
best. They're not actors. So, I want to have people like some of the people, that you've been able to interview and foster, like, and show, like, hey, we still exist. Actors like myself still exist. Actors like my brother Roy Williams Jr. still exists. Actors like my brother Mac Wild still exists. Like,
Yeah.
we still out here. Neil Brown Jr. Like, the list goes on and on. We out here. You know what I mean? Will Dalton, Terry Abney, these people that I mentioned earlier, I worked with on Loving, and Birth of a Nation. We're all actors. We don't give a damn about followers on social media. We don't care about that shit. We care
Yeah.
about coming in, doing our work, telling the story, and then affecting you through that story in some way, shape, or form. And that's what I work going on the education side. Coming in prepared, coming in confident, and living life. That's why it's called Life of an Actor. In order for me to tell these stories, I have to have lived some sort of life.
Right.
For me to play that kind of, you know, second lieutenant drug dealer in Queen of the South, I had to grow up around cats like that, which I did in New York. I knew cats like that I went to school with. I knew
Hmm.
cats like that I went to school with in college, that were like charming on the surface, but like, stick you up in a minute. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
if I didn't live that type of life or go around that character wouldn't have been as authentic. I wouldn't have been able to move in that type of way. If I didn't, experience certain teachers, even though it was a small supporting role, the role that I had, you know, um, Plan for a Purpose is what it was called. T.D. Jakes film produced. Tony Braxton was the lead. It was about the school shooter and a teacher that stopped the school shooter in Atlanta. I played one of the teachers on that. I had teachers like that were kind of like that teacher, but also became your mom or dad. Was like, hey, sit your behind down, and
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it came from love though. It wasn't like them trying to be mean. They really cared about their students, their young students. So
Mhm.
it's all these different things that I've been able to experience and do in my life have helped me to tell these stories as an actor and break these scripts down and really understand what's being said. And I try to pay that forward and let them know, like, it's okay to go out there and live life and have experiences. It's okay to get in touch with these emotions. It's okay to keep yourself physically, mentally, and emotionally available so that you can play these parts. It's okay to have the confidence to know that you're an actor and say that you're an actor loud and proud when you go out. Somebody asks you what you're doing, say that you're
Right.
an actor. If you don't believe it, we're not gonna believe it. You know.
Hmm.
So it's
Hmm.
it's it's really just speaking that life into them. Pun intended. Speaking that life into them and making them feel like they can be an actor. And I'm in that phase now where I kind of want to travel the country. I know I've been talking to you about coming up your way and doing like a workshop. We had fun in Orlando doing that. Like, you can see I'm very passionate about it. I know some people, somebody had said to me, they was like, I thought you was gonna go up there and fight your man because he disagreed, which I was like, nah, I wanted to show him the difference of you could be that guy down here when you up there, but I can also be just as intimidating right here, you know,
Yeah.
and have them understand. It's like I really get into it fully when I coach. I was like, nah, it's just a passion, and I want people to understand because you come to me and you ask me, how do I get the resume you have? And every time out, I'm gonna tell you, I get your ass in a class or train or study or do whatever. You want to
Hmm.
be great, study the grades. It's This whole debate comes up right between, LeBron's the GOAT, the highest scorers of all time. It's like, all right, cool, that's great. that you think he's your GOAT. Every generation has their GOAT. And Michael
Mhm.
Jordan said it best. You know, if it wasn't for Dr. J, there'd be no Michael Jordan. Because I had somebody to study and watch and then take that
Somebody
to
to
the
take
next
him
level.
forward.
If it
Right.
wasn't no Michael Jordan, Kobe wouldn't have anybody, rest in peace, to study and take to that next level. If it wasn't for Kobe, Bron wouldn't have had, it's like the list goes on and on. And now you got SGA and Wemby. They're looking at LeBron. You know what I'm saying? It's like, each one teach one. That's how it's supposed to go.
Right.
That scoring title, you think that's going to stay up there for LeBron? Records are meant to be broken.
Hmm. Hmm.
Somebody else going to take that down, give it 5 to 8, maybe less than 10 years. It's going to
Yeah.
happen, and it's going to keep going on and on and on. And it's the same thing as an actor. We have all these greats to study from that are literally on film that we can study from and watch the nuances and watch what they do and understand the processes they went through and have that available to us. That's your
Right.
job as an actor. You got to elevate and push the bar every single time, and that's what I try to teach my students.
Yeah. You gotta do the homework, man. You gotta have the passion.
Hmm.
You gotta want it. You can't. This is not something that you can force. It's not a career that you can force. You have to actually want it, show up for it, put in the work and the time and the effort, um, and also pass it down. A part of being in this
Yeah.
field is also to hand the baton. Whenever you feel like it's
Hmm.
time, but there's really no real limit or time that needs to be set on it. You can pass the baton whenever, or you can just reach down and lift somebody else up, and bring, usher in the new generation or the next generation, and
Hmm.
kind of share a lot of the things that you've learned along the way, and that will help the next generation be that much bigger and stronger. And to your point, yeah, if you have all of this
Yeah.
information, why hold on to it? It's there for you to be able to share and pass it down. Yeah.
Facts.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Now you also recently went to the Michaux Film Festival. Um, I
I
wish I was.
did
Yeah,
support
I
my
wish.
brother Roy Williams Jr.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I wish I was able to go. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to go this year, but maybe next year. Can you talk a little
Hmm.
bit about just the experience, what you experienced during your whole time at the Michaux Film Festival? You weren't just there for
Yeah.
for Roy.
Shout out.
You also had your
Right.
own workshop too.
Right. Yeah. Shout out to Noel and Courtney and the team for putting together, another dope year of a festival. They went hard. I met a lot of great creatives, a lot of actors, directors, producers. Saw some, when I had a chance, I saw a couple of decent films,
Mhm,
that were good, some shorts.
mhm,
And, I went up there to teach my workshop. I actually did a workshop slash panel. I did it virtually last year from a show. And then this year, I was like, yo, let's just get it popping in person. I was like, all right, cool, let's do it. And I
yeah,
did that. And it was a solid experience. I didn't think that many people were going to show up because I'm like, there's great coaches in LA. Like, who's going to come to holla at, Chris Greene to see what's up? We packed the room out. So it was great. Shout out to their team for pushing it and for everybody that supported me in the LA area, actors that I know that put it up, and I know everybody's like, man, this guy drops a lot of names. I'm not name dropping for the sake of name dropping. I do it because these people genuinely support me and show me love, and I
right,
always want to show them that I appreciate any chance I get. So a
right,
part of the reason why that room got packed out is because of people like Roy Williams Jr., people like Diana Rincon, people like Paul Major. These people were on social media pushing it heavy. People like my LOAA tribe, all my students from LOAA were pushing it heavy, even though they don't live in LA. They were like, yo, coach is gonna be in LA. Y'all gotta holler. So my
yeah,
whole tribe, like, it was great that they showed that support. So we packed the room out, got some volunteers up there. We did some work. I spent a little bars here and there, educated them on some stuff. And I got a lot of compliments throughout the fest, man. My panel was like the first one of the first ones.
wow,
So I got a
nice,
lot of love and respect from people. Hey man, I heard good things about your panel. Oh, I hate I missed your panel. Blah blah blah. So I was like, all right, cool. Next year, we got to run it back. You can come
right,
back next year, and maybe even get a blind size thing popping again. Because a lot of people gave us compliments on that too, man. They were like, yo, this got to come back next time and blah blah blah. So I know with our film festival, Detour International Film Festival, that we're trying to build up. it's definitely going to be a staple. You guys are definitely going to have to come back here and we're going to get that popping. So, I had a great time at the fest. It was cool. Culver City's beautiful. I love how the city's backing them.
Mhm.
Orlando needs to do the same thing with Detour International Film Festival. I'm gonna be blasting this out and tagging them on it too. Like, hey, you got to show that support.
Yeah.
And because film festivals are important, man. We got to tell these stories. We got to tell these stories. We got to have these people understand that they have a place that they can share their stuff, tell these stories, and get these things to happen.
Mhm.
And I love the fact that, Michaux was doing that. And the fact that it's named after Oscar Michaux, a lot of people didn't know who that was. I ain't gonna
No.
front. I didn't know who it was until the first year this festival came out. And I was like,
Yeah.
who is this named
I
after?
had
And I was like,
I had to
oh,
do my homework
word.
as well. I had to do my homework as well.
Yeah.
I've only been in this field for a few years, and so part
Right.
of that homework, I like to dig deep and do research and learn all about all of the aspects, whether it be acting, filmmaking, directing,
Right.
screenwriting, you name it. And Oscar Micheaux was definitely one of the things that I did not know who he was, and what he had contributed, and why his name and what he has been able to accomplish was so pivotal until I started
Hmm.
to dig a little deeper and understand. You
Yeah.
know, um, yeah, he's the reason why we're doing this interview right now. Really, I mean,
Listen, man.
you know, like
Listen.
you don't realize like the impact that you have until it's many, 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 many years
Hmm.
later, and you may not even be here on this earth to witness it. But
Right.
the work that you put in today is going to affect tomorrow in some way, shape, or form.
Hmm.
And we're
Hmm.
the ones that reap the benefits. So the work that we're putting in is going to, the generations that come after us are going to be able to reap the benefit
Right.
after. So yeah, we got to
Right.
give it our all,
Right.
man. And show up.
And yeah, and it's funny because you mentioned my hat, the goat hat, and I
Yeah.
part of my teachings when I teach my students, I like to give them acronyms, and the reason why is because I found that acronyms are easier ways for people to remember stuff,
Right.
for at
Right.
least for me, like how I retain. I know some other people, think the same way, but it's that's why like, people call everything CVS, we know that, but then when people find out what CVS stands for, they're like, oh, that actually stands for something. It's like, yeah, that's not the name of the store. That's not the actual name of the store. And so
Yeah.
when people find that out, they're like, oh, snap, or like film festivals. That's why like TIFF,
Yeah.
there's very few festivals that are like a Tribeca where that's the name of it. It's like, TIFF, you got, Detour National Film Festival, you got, Hollywood Shorts, but like when you look at them on the poster, it's like there's an acronym. It's not the whole name, because it's easy for people to remember and associate with.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I got this hat after teach because, my students would call me the GOAT, right?
Okay.
And I'm like, uh, I know I'm not the greatest of all time because there's too many greats that came before me. And here's the thing, I honestly don't want to wear that crown.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need to be the greatest of all time. I just need to be great at what I do.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
I will say that I find myself one day just looking at this hat, and I was like, oh, I am a GOAT. And for me, as an acting coach, what
Yeah.
GOAT stands for to me is I'm a gifter of acting techniques. That's
Man.
what GOAT means.
Yeah. Come
So
on, man.
yes, I am a GOAT. Any dope acting teacher, you're a GOAT. You are a gifter of acting techniques. That's what I do every week. I give out acting techniques to those who want to act. So yeah, when I teach, I rock my GOAT hat because in that aspect I am. And
Wow.
and you heard it here first because I haven't shared that with anybody
Hey, man.
publicly, just my students. So if you see somebody trying to do that on the next interview, they're like, yeah, I'm a guy. Nah, bro. Nah. That's Chris Greene's joint. He came up with
Nah.
that. That's not you.
We gonna clip this up. We gonna put it out, and people are gonna know that it originated with you. So
Right, right.
we're gonna
Right.
cement it on the internet. So when people go back and be like, who coined the term "goat" in the acting space? Oh, that's Chris Greene, man.
Exactly. Yeah, damn right. Gift of acting techniques. If you are a coach
Yeah,
that truly is about the craft and that's what you do every week, you're a GOAT, period.
yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah, we're gonna make sure that the coin term came from you. I love it though. That's
Right,
dope.
right, right.
Yeah. Well, Chris, do you have anything that's coming up? Are you able to share anything that's next for you?
I've been fortunate this year. I either occurred on Tyler Perry's Assisted Living. It's a show called Assisted Living. I think
Hmm.
there's a couple of more episodes that I'm in that'll come out that in the end of the year or beginning of the year. They split their season up. So
Hmm.
you can look out for that. Obviously Sovereign is available now. I was fortunate enough to work with the Nick Offerman yet again. I worked with him before, and Jacob Tremblay, young phenom. He's killing the game too. And so Nick Offerman, Jacob Tremblay, Sovereign, supporting that, and that's out. And obviously, Murdaugh, Death in the Family, is out. The Hulu series, check it out. They're about halfway through the season right now. New episodes drop on Wednesdays, so I'm fortunate, man. I had a pretty good year as far as releases this year, but I'm always down to work. I'm definitely down to get into some voiceover stuff. I'm trying to get these like characters popping. I want to do some
Yeah.
cool voices, some voiceover stuff, and get into that space. So if anybody's got animated projects coming up, holla at your boy. You can find me on IG, you can find me on Threads, Facebook. I got a fan page on there. Holla at me and see what's up. And then, of course, we have Detour International Film Festival, the short film showcase. So we have two different things that people don't get confused. Our big festival is slated to be 2027 because we're trying to come out the gate big. So we're
Right.
building that up. But in the meantime, this is our third showcase. We've done three short film showcases where we just focus on short films and pick the
Hmm.
best of the submissions and do showcases. Kind of like how Toronto does that. Toronto National Film Festival in Cannes does that. They have short film showcases and then they have the big festival. So we wanted
Hmm.
to do stuff like that because shorts are equally as important. So we have that coming up in January, end of January 2026, and
Okay.
I'm always taking on acting students virtually, in person. People keep asking me about traveling. Listen, all I need is a minimum of 12 students. If I have a
Okay.
minimum, I don't take any more than 20. 12 to 24 workshop. I do intensive. I will come to wherever. I can come to
Mhm.
your city. I can come to your town. If we have a space and we have dedicated actors coming through, it's going to be a weekend that's going to change things for you. And I promise you, you're going to be a better actor for it. So if you're down for that, just hit me up. We can schedule it. We can get it popping. We can organize it. Ask your local coaches, your local theater, your local school, whatever. We will get it popping 100%. And that's pretty much where I'm at. Obviously on the producing end, I know you and I are gonna get some stuff popping.
Yeah, of
So,
course. Yeah.
we definitely gonna get that working.
Yeah. Yeah. No, this is just a formality, man. I wanted to bring you onto the show, give you your
Yeah,
flowers, allow you to talk a little bit about your journey and your career as well. But outside of that, man, we're definitely going to have some things working, both behind the scenes
right.
and hopefully in the near future in front of the camera as well. Maybe we can get some shows off the ground and or find some
Yeah,
find some shows or people who are looking to get their stuff greenlit. So um, I'm always
100%.
down to work. I'm always down to work. Your family now, man. So anything that you need,
Appreciate
if
it.
I can help in any way, shape, or form, that's what I'm gonna do. And yeah, I truly appreciate everything that you've done for me for the Black Script. We didn't even speak on it here, but at Urban Fest 360 in Florida, Chris came through. He was, one of the panel judges and gave a lot of really great advice and information as it pertains to what it's like to, to push your craft and to be a
Mhm.
strong actor. And it was just fantastic, man. So kudos to you, hats off to you, man. And like I said, anything that you need, I got you.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much for the support, for having me at Urban Fest 360 with Blindsides, and thank you for always putting on for the culture with the interviews and educating us and sharing the content, man. It's dope, and everybody should be subscribed and followed and liked, all that. If they're not, every time something pops up, I'll be telling them. So shout out to you and the whole team over there. At Black Script doing what y'all do, man. It's dope. The one thing you can do for me, though, you can let me know on this merch, man. I'm a New Yorker, man. I love hoodies, man. I need that hoodie. That's a black. I need that joint, man. You gotta let me know when you got
Yeah,
some more. I definitely need one.
I
I don't know
got
if
you.
that's exclusive or not, but I need it.
No, it's not. So it's not exclusive. So it could definitely be. I got you. We'll talk afterwards.
All right. Yeah, man.
Yeah. But okay. So I just like to give my guests the final word, whether that be a quote, words of encouragement, or a piece of advice that you'd like to pass on, or that has been passed down to you. You can say one of the three,
Mm.
or you can say all three. It's up to you.
Oh man. For actors, this I'm pretty sure some people have heard this. I heard it early on in my career. It's just a reminder. Your network is your net worth.
Hmm.
Network with people who are going to elevate you, and that will show your worth to many other people. So as far as that goes, know that, for, as far as words of encouragement, you know, just read as much as you can, and try to make memories, man. Materials will fade, but try to make memories. Go out and have them with your family, friends, elders. I'm learning that as I'm getting seasoned. Like I said, I'm trying to,
Yeah.
find and seek out elders because they've lived, man, and they got stories to tell, and they've seen a lot of things we haven't seen. And hopefully, we're fortunate enough to get to that place where we can do that and be that to our kids and kids. So, seek out those elders and definitely, you know, soak in the game from them. And
Mhm.
a quote that you know that sticks with me. And I've been learning to rekindle my faith. When I was younger, I lost it due to some losing my father, losing my best friend in the same year. I was going through a lot of stress and stuff like that, and it kind of made me, it did make me wane off my faith.
Mhm.
And one thing I'm doing now is trying to get back into that.
Mhm.
And this stuck with me. I heard somebody say it, but then I kind of formed it into a quote for me personally, but I'll share with everybody. And I was told, when people question certain things, and it was, God doesn't do mistakes, God does his takes.
Mhm.
And I had to think about it for a minute. I was like, yeah, it's not a mistake because from our point of view, it's this is God's take on what's going on in your life, and that's not
Yeah.
a mistake. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So God doesn't do mistakes; He does His takes. And
Mhm.
I was like, I every time something happens, I'm like, man, this is that bullshit. What's going on? I try to now take a moment, take a step back and go, okay, I may not agree with it, but obviously there's a lesson in this somewhere. So let me see
Absolutely.
what it is, figure it out. Yeah,
Mhm.
and go from there and figure out what it is I need to do. So, that I'll leave everybody with that, and hopefully that's something that will, resonate. Whether you're a believer or not, just know that, we're not the center of the universe. We have choices, we make choices, and we have to stand on those choices. But our choices come based on what we're given, not on what we have. So you know if you're fortunate enough to get up in the morning, you're going to have to make choices based on what's thrown at you for that day, because every day is going to be different, and it's up
Mhm.
to you to make the strongest choice. Like I tell my students, it's not about right or wrong, because life isn't right or wrong. We know we morally say that, but we don't know what life's going to get you. But
Right.
at the end of the day, if you can make a choice based on, is it going to serve you or is it not? Is it out of desire or want, or is it out of necessity or need?
Yeah.
That's what you base your choices on. And hopefully they, lead you down a path that you need to be on. So that's
Mhm.
just my take on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right, man. You hit the nail on the head. I tell my kids all the time, life's all about choices.
Hmm.
And uh it's, no path is necessarily the right path, but we're all here for a reason, and everything happens for a reason.
Hmm.
So at the end of the day,
Hmm.
it's up to you to take heed and learn the lessons that are put in front of you. We don't always see the signs,
Right.
but the signs are always there, man. For sure.
100%.
For sure.
100%.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Chris, man. It's again truly an honor to have you on. Thank you for sharing your journey, giving us some knowledge and insight to your career, and some of the things that you've done and been able to accomplish thus far. Um, I am looking forward to the film festival when that comes around. Whenever we can
Hmm.
get you here at to do a workshop, we'll do that. Even if we got to do something virtual first, then we'll figure
Hmm.
all of that stuff out. But again, man, you are now part of the Black Script family, and anything that we can do to help within what it is that you have going on, or if we can help, get things off to the next level in whatever aspect, we're down to help, man. I'm down to help, and you got a friend in me, man. So um, that's pretty much all I got. But
I
that's Chris
appreciate
Greene,
you. I
everybody.
appreciate your time, man.
Yeah, absolutely.